Hi, first graders. Last week in writing workshop, we talked about realistic fiction. In realistic fiction, the characters are pretend and made up, but the problems that the characters have seem real. The Yasmin books are an example of realistic fiction. In the Yasmin books, the author, Sadia Faruqi, made up the character Yasmin. She's pretend. But the problems that Yasmin have seem like problems that could happen to anybody, like getting lost at the farmer's market or being nervous about trying a new sport. This week, you are going to get to start to write realistic fiction stories. But to do that, first, we need to plan them out. So today I want to teach you how you can plan your realistic fiction stories. The first thing that you need to do is you need to think about your character's identity. And a tip is to check Seesaw. We did this last Friday on Seesaw. You came up with identities for your characters. The second thing we're going to do is that we're going to tell and tap our stories across the planning page. And the third thing that we're going to do is to jot pictures and labels on the planning page. So let's get started. First, I need to think about my character's identity. So to do this, I'm going to check Seesaw and see the identity that I came up with for my character last week. So here's the Seesaw assignment from last week where you made up your character's identity called Making Characters' Identities. I'm going to go inside and remind myself about my character. Right? Her name was Sophia, and she was 7 years old. She lived with her family members, her little sister Betty, who was 4 years old, and her mom and dad. And her friends were James and Abigail. My character likes her pet dog, Riley, and she likes to be outdoors. My character does not like surprises and trying new foods. And there's the picture I drew of her. So I need to think now, which piece of my character's identity do I want to write my story about? Well, I could write about how she doesn't like surprises, but I don't think I want to do that today. I think I'm going to write about her pet dog and how much she likes her pet dog. Okay, so now I need to plan my story out using the planning page. And the planning page that we're going to use looks like this. You're thinking, I've seen this chart before in reading workshop. Well, today, and this week, this whole unit, we're going to plan our realistic fiction stories using this beginning, middle, and end chart. So in the beginning, we're going to think about the characters and the setting. In the middle, we'll think about the problem. And in the end, we'll think about how our characters solve the problem. So if you're in school today, your teacher is going to give you this chart on a paper ready to go. But if you're at home, we're going to make the chart ourselves. So let's make this chart together. I'm going to use a blank piece of paper. And I'm going to draw a line across the top like this. And then I'm going to draw 2 lines on the page to make my paper into 3 sections. And then I need to write beginning, middle, and end. But instead of writing all of that out, I'm going to make a B for the beginning of my story, an M for the middle, and you guessed it, an E at the end. That was so quick. Now I'm ready to start planning out my story. Now I know that for step 2 here, I need to tell and tap my story across the planning page. So that's what I'm going to do now. I know that at the beginning of my story, I need to talk about the characters and the setting. In the middle, I need to say the problem. And in the end, I have to say the solution. So let me start tapping and telling my story. In the beginning, my characters, Sophia, Betty, and her friend James, those are the characters here, are at Sophia's house for a play date. And Since my story is about her pet dog, Riley, I'm going to say that Sophia really wanted to show James how much fun it was to play with Riley. She wanted to show James how Riley can play fetch. But then there started to be a problem. And I'm thinking, what are some real problems that dogs have? Sometimes they might get loose, they might get off their leash and get loose, or sometimes they might feel sick, or they might eat too much food or try to sneak food off the kitchen table. The problem that Sophia's dog Riley is going to have in my book is that Riley doesn't feel well. She feels really sick and she's sad. That's the problem. And for my solution, I'm thinking, how would that problem get solved in real life? Well, if a dog wasn't feeling well, I would probably take the dog to the vet's office, the animal doctor. So they're going to take Riley to the vet, and they're going to realize that Riley's not sick. She's having puppies. Okay. So I tapped and I told my story across the pages. Now it's time to jot pictures and maybe do some quick labels and sketching on my planning page. So this way I won't forget tomorrow if I don't finish writing my story today. So my characters, and I'm just drawing a quick sketch. I don't want to draw really fancy pictures because I just want to get something down quick so that I can start writing my story. So we have Sophia. We have her little sister, Betty. And we have Sophia's friend, James. Those are the characters. And they are at Sophia's house. And they want to play with Riley. And Riley is their dog. So they want to play with Riley. But Riley's feeling kind of sad. And that's where we're going to get into the problem. Riley doesn't want to play. I'm going to draw a quick sketch here of Riley. And she's kind of laying down. She's got a frown. She's looking sad. And Sophia, Betty, and James, they're all feeling worried because Riley is feeling sad. That's the problem. So the solution, they go to the veterinarian. Now they're at the veterinarian. And the vet, this is the vet wearing like an animal jacket. And she has a stethoscope around her neck. That's the vet. And there's a table with Riley on it. And the vet says that Riley is having puppies and that Riley isn't sick. That's how the problem is solved. So do you see what I did, writers? I drew and I sketched and I wrote quick words across the planning page. I didn't write my whole story out. I just drew quick pictures of the characters and wrote a few words to remind myself what I'm going to say. Now I'm ready to start writing my piece. So I can go get a writing booklet and I can start writing. So, first graders, did you see how I planned my realistic fiction story today? I thought about my character's identity and what I wanted to say about my character. I wrote about my character's pet dog, Riley. I told and tapped my story across the pages, across my planning page, and then I jotted pictures and labels of the planning page. So, you're going to go off and pick what story you want to write and plan about your character. Off you go.